epic. I don't care. This was epic. Epic.
It was another episode that makes me just not understand why people are hating on it. Like, it was brutal. It was beautiful. It had surprises and twists that you could see coming, but didn't expect when they were executed. It was sad. It was great. I really enjoyed it.
It was an episode of really great moments. And as I will say every single week, just to make sure our asses are covered, this is certainly not a 10 out of 10 show. It's riddled with mistakes, which I am going to bring up some episode-specific ones in the course of our discussion here. But man, do the pros outweigh the cons. Jesus wept the show gave me all
Nothing
the feels.
Nothing is perfect.
No, I mean, unless it's Jaws.
We're in the home stretch, nearly at 50,000 subscribers, so please do keep hitting that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. I still see over 90% of you watch my content without subscribing. Guys, just hit that subscribe button. It's free. It helps me so much and allows me to keep bringing you the content that you guys are watching. So go ahead and do all that. Let's get back to the video.
But like, on a real, can we just talk about that opening? Oh, the Balrog. It was so cool. It was so freaking cool. Although it does lead to a mistake, which I'll come back to later. But that exchange between Durin Senior and Durin Junior was beautiful. Like, I remember when you used to let my hand come up, and then he tells him just before saving his son, "You were getting stronger." I'm like, oh, yes, dwarves, best part of this whole damn show. Nothing's better than dwarves.
You know it's something good when you're shouting at the TV, because I found myself going, but why is he doing that? Why does he have to die? He can just bugger off. You know, he's going to come up. All the rocks are falling. It'll be fine. But it seemed the way that they did it, like he kind of had to interact with it for it to kind of all come down. He had his realization. He realized all the bad that he'd done, and he wanted to, make up for it. And I kind of get it, but a part of me was literally going, no, just go back. Like, you're good again, just go back. But that's what it did 3 or 4 times in this episode, in the sense of, build. It was great. It really was. I really don't understand the hate for it. Really don't.
Well, do you know what? When everyone says that critics' opinions don't matter, obviously you're just going to align with those who you share a value with, like with anything, religion, politics, history, whatever, right? I'm aligning with the critics on this one. 83% score on Rotten Tomatoes from the critics.
Nice!
Well, you got to remember with Rotten Tomatoes, it just means that 83% of people liked it, right? It doesn't mean that the movie's score is 83%, but it means that of the scores that it got from critics... Well, yeah. 83% of people basically like this movie. You look at audience scores, and it's still not as bad as you'd expect. It's 53%, so understandably harsher given the aggro that's been going around online. Still more than 50% of people like this show. Still a win. It's just, again, being contradictory now, using the Rotten Tomatoes barometer. 53% counts as rotten, which is fine. I don't think the show is rotten. If I had to play the scoring game for a TV series, which isn't something I've done recently, it would fall somewhere between a 6.5 and 7 out of 10 for me. It's a fantastically entertaining show, faults and all. That Balrog opening, just epic. Then we move into something I had a real problem with. And I was like, hey. So, Galadriel's leading the elves out of Eregion, yeah? And then the orcs go, the orcs kind of trap her at the tunnel exit. And she's like, I'm the one you want. Let the others go free. Give me one good reason why I should, elf. And she says, I'll give you 9. I'm like, no. Dumb. Really dumb.
They could just kill her and take them.
For one, yes. 2,
James Bond again.
Don't bring the fact that you've got rings to the orcs' attention. Stupid. Really dumb. And that again was one of those, okay, we're using it as plot armor, as a plot device, because we need to get you to the next scene where you're going to interact with Adar, which was actually a really good scene.
Yeah, very good.
But it's like the end of the journey of that particular journey thread was great. The journey itself was like, there's some mistakes here. This was not.
It's one of them, isn't it? Sometimes you kind of just have to forgive certain things. It's a little bit like with editing sometimes, when there might be a certain shot missing that they didn't capture when they were filming, so they have to kind of sideline it with the editing, and sometimes you kind of have to bypass it. I feel like that's one of those things. It's not the end of the world. It's a little bit, oh come on, but because the following scene was so good, I think it just kind of falls off, right? You kind of just forget about it. It shocked me that, even though like it kind of, when you've seen it, it's kind of like, oh, okay, it's kind of obvious. It wasn't the way that they built it, because like that his his second, that sort of lead orc, or I can't remember if he had a name or anything. They built his kind of developing, his developing mistrust in Adar and his questioning of him and stuff like that. They built that really well, because that's been coming for a while. But then at the same time, because of where they left it with the orc's interaction with Sauron, you didn't leave that scene thinking, oh, they've sided with him. So when they started carrying him through on his little makeshift gurney, like it was like, I actually turned to Seth and said to Danny, I was like, all the ones that die and they bring like the odd one through on gurneys, it's like, is there favoritism here? And then I realized it was him. I did not see that coming. I did not see it coming.
Nor me.
It really got me with that.
Nor me. Before we even get on to that, though, bringing it back to it was sad. But before we get on to that, just how the orcs met and interacted with Sauron, can we just acknowledge Sauron the Butcher Boy? I'm sorry, turning Celebrimbor into his personal arrow pincushion. I was like, I'm sorry, that's some cold-blooded BS, right?
Brutal.
And he has that stoic face that you can see above me here, but it's like, yo, that's quite mean.
He's very expressive. Like, he can literally go from most evil MF in the whole thing to that, especially like when he kept changing. Obviously, we'll get to that later. But like his expression, his entire look, his entire demeanor, like he's a great actor. And it really delivers that character. And it was so brutal, and you felt the unfairness of it, and the manipulation, the journey that Celebrimbor had to take to get to that point. He literally had no relief from it, and it was impactful.
But now in that scene, so my wife disagrees with me on my take for this, but obviously I said it, so I love it. But I really, really do like my take on how Celebrimbor dies. So Sauron loses his cool when he's like, just give me the 9 and I'll cleanse Middle Earth. And Celebrimbor's last words are sort of, you'll never get the 9. They're out of your reach. And that causes Sauron to, flip a switch, lose his cool, and basically puts a spear through Celebrimbor. The death blow, the killing blow, the coup de grace. And he puts him, up just to remind everyone of how powerful he was. But it's Celebrimbor's very last words when he go, you are the prisoner, Sauron, Lord of the Rings. And I was like, hang about. That isn't just a tip of the hat to say to people, hey, look, we referenced the name of the original book. There's something deeper here. Because if you look at Sauron's face, there's kind of this look of realization that sweeps over him. Up until that point, I think his main thing has been, I want to enslave the world with these various rings of the various races. I don't think the idea of having one ring to rule them all has entered his mind yet. I think that moment, in a kind of tragic poetry, Celebrimbor's last words calling him the Lord of the Rings, is what flips that trigger for him and makes him go, yeah, I could control all of them, couldn't I, now that they're built and I've got his magic hammer, which we see later on. And I'm like, that look of realization is kind of like famous last words. Celebrimbor's very last words, without him wanting to be a gift, actually turned out to be the greatest gift he gave Sauron, because it was like light bulb moment. It's the line of the series.
It's the line of the series when, like, the way that they've embraced that character and told his story, as tragic as it is and as heartbreaking as it is, it was the perfect way to end it with him as well. And it really went deep this episode, I thought.
And then straight from that, then bringing it back to what we were discussing before, we've got the tragedy of Celebrimbor, and then we go straight to the tragedy of Ada. That hit me harder than I thought it would, you know. And this brings me back to something I was discussing on last week. You weren't here, were you? But something I brought up on last week's episode. Although I thought Galadriel escaping the orc camp just with a hooded cloak, I thought that was effing ridiculous. Because we know from the movies that the orcs have got an amazing sense of smell. So you're going to tell me that a bloody she-elf walking through their ranks...
You wouldn't even need to. You could see a blonde hair outside the hood. You know what I mean?
It was, that, again, another instance. But here we go. The reason we did that scene, it's another question of the journey itself was cack, but the destination actually turned out to be really good. Because what she saw around the bonfire was Adar, you know, putting the Uruks on a pyre and him crying at losing his children. And it just showed the depths for which he cared about them. And it's like, that scene last week made this scene this week that much better. Because it was like, you actually felt for Adar in that moment. That anything else if anyone else kills Adar, I don't think it's that deep. But it's the fact that it's his children kill him. It really hit home, man. I'm like,
very well
built. He actually, for you guys at least, for the rest of Middle Earth, maybe he was a bit of an a-hole, but for you guys, as far as you're concerned, this guy had your back, man. Like, he was very much Team Uruk.
But then also where it went from there, and your mate, whose name that you know all of these names, and I just can't get them, obviously realized he made the wrong decision pretty quickly. He served his purpose, and they all served their purpose very quickly. So that obviously the whole story arc culminated with him, with him being killed, because basically Sauron was like, "I don't need you anymore." And like you say, going back to Adar,
wasted carbon.
His speech to Galadriel and his kind of changes, kind of spinning on its head. It was obviously not going to last very long, considering we already know where this goes. But it was very poignant. It's another great actor there. The way that he just kind of obviously showed his other side, and the fact that the ring had an opposite
gave her
effect
the ring
on
back.
him. And literally handed it to her. Like, that should have been the giveaway. That should have been the giveaway, but it wasn't. There was so much hope in what he was saying to her, and so much depth, and so much belief in what he was saying. It was almost like, wow, okay, what are they going to do here? And it lulls you into a false sense of security so brilliantly that I just didn't see it. But again, it's one of those things that when it happens, it's like, I should have seen that, but they just kind of masked it with just acting brilliance.
They really did.
Yeah,
they really did. And I know that there's going to be the naysayers out there, of which there are many for the show. There will be the naysayers out there who'll be like, yeah, but this doesn't make sense, because the last time the Uruks saw Sauron, they basically helped kill him, in episode 1 of season, when he turned into Venom, when he basically turned into a symbiote. I did not like that scene, to be honest, but the key point isn't Sauron the Black Goop worked or didn't work. It didn't work. But the Uruks, last time they were interacting with Sauron, were very much Team Adar, not Team Sauron. So I know there's going to be naysayers out there who are like, well, how come all of a sudden they're now with him? Two things on that note.
I think it's quite obvious.
One, Sauron the Deceiver, literally what he does, warps your mind, rapes your mind, and tricks your mind into doing his bidding. That's established. I don't really know how you could argue that. And the second thing, as you've already been saying, using Gulug as the device to show kind of the greater feeling of what's happening with the Uruks. Adar, because he's been so driven by vengeance throughout this battle, has arguably been sacrificing more Uruks than he should. So the Uruks have probably become quite disenfranchised with him.
And I think that's obvious, to be honest. And like you said, I think he was very much the tool for, or the mouthpiece for that. Because he wouldn't be the only one thinking that, and he'll be kind of the go-between as well. I thought that was quite obvious. So if anybody wants to naysay that, they've completely missed it, and it was very, very obvious. So, you know,
I'm waiting for the comments. I'm sure they're gonna come thick and fast. Yeah, I'm sure they're gonna come thick and fast. Do you know what I'm gonna put? I'm gonna put nerd erotic is wrong as the thumbnail. Oh, there we go. And if you've watched this far, gotcha. Also, thank you. Please subscribe. Now, shifting our attention.
That's a way to get people in.
I know, right? Shifting our attention to Numenor quickly. And again, I'm sure there's going to be people who are going to discredit this, but I thought Elendil getting the sword, getting Narsil, it was like, I don't know how you're aware of what Narsil is, right?
Not really, but I still got the poignance of the scene.
The blade
like I got that it was
cuts
important.
The ring. It's the blade that cuts the ring.
Okay, right. Okay,
that's the sword that cuts the ring from Sauron's hand. It's a mega
The thing
scene,
that I don't understand. Sorry, go on.
What I was going to say is that the way they filmed that scene when Miriel hands him the sword, it was almost, and I thought this was wonderful, and people are going to say it's lazy. I thought it was great. It was almost a frame-for-frame recreation of when Elrond hands the swords to Aragorn in The Return of the King. Because it's the same sword. It's just Aragorn's sword is reforged from Narsil, right? It's
nice,
all one
nice
sword.
Little Easter egg there.
Great Easter egg. So he's been given this sword, Narsil, by Queen Miriel, and the way he takes it out, you know, quick slash, and then looks at it, kind of, and then puts it gently on his shoulder. I'm like, oh, well, I've seen that before. That's a great tip of the hat. Well, bloody
But technically,
done.
this
Well
happened
done.
first.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I know people are going to say, oh, but it's so forced and random the way Narsil was just lying
It's
there.
not.
I'm like, yeah. What did you want?
Well, where did it came from somewhere? You know what I mean? It had to come from somewhere. And at that point, it wasn't as significant.
Yeah. And it's a mega important scene. Queen Miriel is literally saying to Elendil, you, dude, who have been the most loyal person to me, I now want you to leave. And I thought what he said was so kingly. He's like, what disservice or cowardice have I ever shown you that makes you think I could bleed far from your side? And I'm like, yes, King. Yes, King. You say it how it is. And
there's one thing I'm not understanding,
like
though. And you...
Go on.
Sorry, you might be able to explain this to me. So what I'm not understanding about Numenor is obviously last week she emerged from the water. Everyone was like, oh, actually, we've been wrong about this. Start praising her again, calling her queen. But yet she's still a prisoner and the other guy's still in charge. I mean, I know they did the whole thing of like calling everybody traitors.
I mean,
why does he still have that power?
It's a purge, isn't it? You know, there's obviously the people who are down by the sea who saw it firsthand, and there was a contingent of them who probably still want Miriel to be queen. That's the sort of thing where, yeah, you could pull at straws with it, but I'm just like, man, at the end of the day, this dude is in power. They've come out and spoken to all of the High Council of Numenor and said, hey, we found this law, this old ancient law that none of you probably know, in black and white, that says she's a devil, biatch. We're going to imprison anyone who follows her. It's just like Stalin purging Russia, you know. It's literally, I'm going to remove all of my political counterparts and confirm my power before it's taken away from me. It was just a purge. Honestly, I wouldn't read any deeper into that. Chronologically, yeah, for us, it was last week. For them, for all intents and purposes, it was probably the same damn day. Earlier that day, she comes out the sea. It's nighttime. Jesus, before this girl gets back into power, I need to commit a purge, right?
There was
that's
nice...
how I saw it. I was like, that's fine.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there was some nice setups as well for the next season. Like, obviously, seeing him leave and him seeing, I always get the names wrong, but Elfland, I keep calling it, burning in the background. And seeing that he can't go there. Yeah, seeing that he can't go there. And obviously, he continues on. His son is now on his journey back to Numenor. And he's not going to be there. And, you know, you can see different things sort of mapping out. I cannot, well, I have to say it though, I cannot wait. That little weaselly commander dude, I cannot wait to see him die.
Kemen, yeah, he needs a slap, doesn't he?
Oh, but I think it's going to be the young lad that when he threatened his horse. So it's going to be him, because it would be me if he threatened any of my animals. And he would die a very painful death.
You reckon so Isildur's going to get him?
He threatened his horse. He threatened to turn his horse into horse meat. So his whole, I just feel like that's, I mean, he's obviously had interactions with people that it could be a number of people. But for me, because, and I like the fact they did this, as brutal as it was to see the horse having its throat cut last week, I feel like they're making more of a point of, like, I can't think of words, it's very late, like revenge on animals as well, not just people. And I love that about it, because I would literally be the Dexter for animal killers and animal abusers if I could get away with it, which I can't, just for the record, because I'm not that clever. But I just feel like that's what they're setting up. He's threatening his animal. Do you know what I mean? Because they made such a big deal out of Elrond's, which they should have done. I just feel like there might be a pattern there, and the kind of the look he gave him and all of that. Yeah, I think it'll be him. And I hope it is. Yeah. Because it's Thingy's son as well, isn't it? And he killed the other guy and he witnessed that. And yeah. You have to keep giving the names. So
just because, and again, for the diehards in the comments, go easy if Lauren doesn't know the answer to this next question. We can all appreciate Lord of the Rings without being deep into geekdom, you gatekeeping little twats. So you know who Isildur is or not? Aside from just being Elendil's son, you know what he serves in the Lord of the Rings story. Cool.
No.
Do you remember at the beginning of the first movie, they've got that big battle, Elendil gets killed by Sauron, Isildur goes to his father's side, picks up his father's sword, Sauron steps on the sword, Narsil, this very sword we're talking about, and with the shards of Narsil slices the ring off of Sauron's hand. That young boy, Isildur, is the one who slices the ring off Sauron's hand, but he's then the one who goes into the volcano, and Elrond says to him, "Cast the ring into the fire, destroy it," and he doesn't, and he keeps it for himself. And that's how the ring eventually gets to Gollum.
I've got to be honest, I don't remember any of that, because it was a long time ago these films came out, and I only watched them when they came out. I wasn't a huge fan of them, I've got to be honest. I enjoyed them when they were out, but I'm not like, big fan like you are, because I know you're a huge fan of them. But I remember my brother reading them when we were kids. They just didn't resonate with me at that age, at the age I was when they came out. But I have to say, and again, for all the naysayers, I've enjoyed this so much that now that it's finished, we're going to go back and watch the films again. Like, it's reinvigorated me to watch the films. So if anything comes out of this for the more gatekeepy people who are criticizing it, this is going to make people who weren't around when those films came out, so wouldn't know about them or might not be bothered about them, or people like myself who aren't avid hardcore fans, wanting to go back and see them again and appreciate Tolkien's work, because I still feel like this celebrates Tolkien's work, because this didn't exist in Tolkien's world. This has been imagined and obviously been consulted on by is it Stephen Tolkien that's the consultant on this? And I know people have an issue with him.
Philip, one or the other.
And I know so a lot of people have issues with him, but at the end of the day, it's keeping that world alive, and I think that's great.
Do you know what? I'm of the opinion with this whole that we're even gatekeeping the Tolkien name now. It's like that's the point why I call ridiculousness. I'm like, his last name is literally Tolkien. Like, you can't. That's his family's work. Just stop telling a Tolkien. Basically, what we're doing is we're saying to a Tolkien, "You're wrong about Tolkien." Like, can you fathom how stupid that sounds if you normalize it? It's
technically, though,
it's the equivalent of me saying to you, "I know what your husband likes better because we're both men." Even though you both are married, you both share a same last name, I know better because I have a penis. It's literally that level of imbecility.
No, that's fair. And yeah, it's just I just want to come at it like, because it's great, because we're not conflicting here, but we're two completely different sides. Like, you're a huge fan of the Lord of the Rings franchise, which is great because I can lean on you for all the names that I can't remember. And then I'm the other side of that, completely casual with it, and I've found a new love for it through this series. And you'll still get people going, oh yeah, but you're getting the wrong feel of it because it's not how it should be. It doesn't matter. It's like we've said before, different artistic representations, and I've really enjoyed this series. But it's still got its flaws, like we said before. Nothing apart from Jaws is perfect, but like you said, the pros far outweigh the cons.
Yeah,
far outweigh.
Yeah, 100%. There is one last pro and two more cons I do want to raise just before we wrap up, though. The Sauron-Galadriel fight. This was awesome. This was just awesome. The way he was, messing with her mentally by constantly swapping back and forth. Now I'm you. Now I'm Celebrimbor. Now I'm the Sauron you kind of fancied.
Very Street Fighter.
Now I'm Sauron.
Very Street Fighter when
really
he turned into her.
Very cool.
Straight away, just reminded me of like taking the same character on Street Fighter, and I feel like there was I feel like there was inspiration from that there. And it was done in a really cool way. Yeah.
No, I loved it, and I know again it's going to be one of those things.
But why was she all of a sudden able to fight back against him?
Because that's how fights work.
And she did still have the ring on.
Even against people who are stronger than you, you get a few blows in. She still had the ring on, and he ultimately kicked her ass. And
she's badass. And I love the way that they've put a woman in that position, because obviously, the Lord of the Rings films are a massive sausage fest. But she does irritate me a little bit. I've got to admit. I think as much as I do kind of like that theatrical element, like it does feel like it could be a stage show, and it's that kind of acting. I think she's a little bit too whimsical sometimes, but not enough for me to dislike her. But yeah, it's very kind of overacted a little. But there's not necessarily an issue with that. Like, sometimes it calls for it, and sometimes it lends itself to it. And as it built, and obviously as she was becoming defeated and stuff, it became very obvious what she was going to do. But you wanted to see it happen. You weren't sat there going, "Oh yeah, she's going to do this. She's going to take the ring with her." To be honest, I think she should have tossed the ring. But at the same time, I understand why she didn't.
I thought she was going to do that and literally go
like that. Yeah, I thought that too. But then it became apparent when obviously they found her that they needed the ring to save her. So it made sense as to why she didn't. But I think anybody else in that moment would have thought, yeah, bing. If I keep hold of it and you go and try and find it and it's near me, you're going to find it. If I throw it away, probably not. But yeah, I get why they did that. But yeah, it was really good. Anyway, next pro point.
Yeah, well, no, that was the last pro point, and I'll bring it up to it. I'll do my best to finish on a pro. But there were two things towards the end that I genuinely wanted to vomit in my mouth, and I couldn't because my son was sleeping on my chest.
Oh no! What a shame.
and the second one, it was and the second one didn't hate, but I was like, this is a bit nonsensical. The one I despise, Gandalf, Grand Elf. Oh, piss off.
Oh, I thought that was quite cute. It was very Hodor.
Horrible. Oh, horrible.
I quite liked it. It's very cheesy. The Hobbit, but I love a bit of cheese.
So cheesy. The Hobbits named him Grand Elf, and then from that he says, "I'll call myself Gandalf." I'm like, go away.
They're not hobbits. Don't call them hobbits. You'll get jumped on.
Harfoots and stouts. I'm sorry. Harfoots and stouts. I'm sorry. Or stores. Harfoots and stores. I'm sorry. They're hobbits. Just shush. They're hobbits. No, Grand Elf. Stop it. It does make me worry monumentally, though, that other wizard is Saruman, and that would actually ruin the show for me quite badly.
That's who I thought it was, because he looks like him.
It can't be. It can't be. You got to remember. No, Saruman and Gandalf were like best bros. It wasn't what you see in the Fellowship of the Ring, the first Lord of the Rings movie. Yes, Saruman betrays him there, because you later find out that he's been talking to Sauron through the Palantir. Sauron the Great Deceiver has messed up his mind. So by the time Gandalf arrives to come and see him, hey, he's been a villain. they've got a long existing relationship before that encounter in the Fellowship of the Ring, where they're all part of the Wizards Council and they're like best buddies. Saruman is not evil at this point. He should not be evil. There was a kind of insinuation that, oh, he's got some good in him. I mean, I'm worried they're going to make it Saruman, but it doesn't make a lick of sense if it is.
No, it wouldn't.
And yeah,
it wouldn't. But let's not speculate.
Exactly. I'm just going to say what we do have affirmed now, which is this character, as we've all thought for a very long time, is now confirmed as Gandalf. I do still think what I raised in episode 5 about the theory of the Eastars being the two blue wizards that Tolkien often spoke of that came in the Second Age. I thought that would have made more sense, but fine. It's cool. We need the fan stuff. We're going to double down on Gandalf. I just hate the way he got his name. Ugh. And then there's
I love a bit of cheese that I can get behind and I'm like, yeah!
So cheesy. Agatha was literally leaning in going, a wizard? Like, no, what wasn't for me. Yeah, the last thing, as they're going through the various races, and it ends with the elves obviously doing their big shazar, which that was all good. But it's what happened with the dwarves. And, you know, they're still in Khazad-dûm. And you've got Disa, the Durin's wife, basically saying to him, like, yeah, so while your dad was alive, he's basically had a lot of people sending him some stuff, and we now have to pay off that debt. Which is, all of that makes sense. Question. Why the F are you still in Khazad-dûm when there's a freaking Balrog below you?
Yeah, it's one of them. It's like they've made the impression that, like, because all the, you know, rocks came tumbling down, he's now trapped down there again, but he's kind of big and powerful, so is the magic stuff in the rocks stopping him?
No, that's Mithril. That's literally just the ore that they're mining. That's just Mithril. There's nothing magical about that until Celebrimbor's done his stuff, right? That's the stuff they make swords with, shields with, armor with, rings with. It's iron ore. That's all it is.
Just stuff.
It's stuff for the dwarves to mine. It's a metal for the dwarves to mine. That's all the Mithril is. I'm sorry. Put it this way. If you knew there was a crocodile living in your basement, but you know that a crocodile doesn't have means to open the door, are you still going to risk it?
It depends.
I'm not going to because no.
It's like you said about timings, though.
It's
like you said about timings. Like, are they still working out what to do? Like, can they just up and leave?
They seemed very bloody.
Bearing in mind, there's quite a big war going on.
The fact that they're there talking, the fact that they're there completely mellow yellow, talking about how they're going to pay off debts. I'm like, bigger picture here. Ancient mythological creature has just come and killed your king and is very powerful, and there is no way in hell you're able to stand up to him, and your new king has seen it firsthand. Why are we sticking around here, guys? Get the F out.
Yeah, it's one of them, isn't it? Like, clearly there's going to be more to do with this in the next one, and that's just how they've paced it, because there was other things they had to concentrate on in this one. I think that's, again, another forgivable thing for me. I feel like obviously the story is just going to continue, but I get what you're saying. You know, you're not wrong.
They needed something, a throwaway line. What of the demon? What of the monster? What of the great evil? What of the Balrog? Just a throwaway line from Durin going, "It's buried, fear no more," something like that. And
something,
then something, and you can then have the camera pan to Durin. And he has that look of doubt on his face, knowing that he's just lied to his people. See, I'm good at this shit, man. Here you go. You could have had Durin lie to his people and say the Balrog is now buried. You don't need to fear for it anymore. Have the camera
just
pan
to put
on
them
him
off
and have
for a bit.
Exactly, because what's the government, or in this case, the king's duty to his people? If he's a good king, well, his duty is to his people, right? Is to have their protection. He knows as a dwarf, making them uproot and move to another mountain is probably going to be quite traumatic. So he's thinking he's doing the right thing for his people by detracting from the fact that there's a Balrog and being like, we're fine here. Please be fine. Inside, he's like, please be fine here. Please be fine here. But he's like, the Balrog's buried. We're fine here. but you pan the camera onto his face and you can see a clear look of concern and doubt. You fix that problem.
Just something.
But the fact that
just something.
Something. The fact that he just
they were focusing more on the king's
hell.
death, weren't they? They were focusing more on the king's death because obviously they'll put that to bed with this series. There'll be more with the Balrog in the next one. So I get it. Sometimes things just kind of have to fall by the wayside. I think it falls under that category again. But you're right. You know, it's worth addressing, but I wouldn't say it was damaging.
Listen, if someone gave me show notes for this episode, that would have been something I would have sent back as a ghostwriter. It'd been like Balrog.
Oh, for sure.
Mark.
How are you going to do it? Yeah.
Balrog question mark.
Oh, forward to the next series, definitely.
Well, this is the positive I want to end on. All in all, this has been such a vast improvement over the quite slow, laborious, and action-light season 1. I thought some of the really manipulative character moments between Celebrimbor and Sauron have been amazing. The dwarves have cemented themselves as being the best thing about the whole show.
The character
work was great. The Battle of Eregion was so impressive considering this was a TV thing. You know, this is TV and we're getting a battle of that scale, not just in terms of its scope and design, but the fact that it subverted expectations by not having the dwarves arrive when they should and having the good guys effectively lose. Like, everything worked in this series for me. Seeing the rings come to power, seeing mistakes being made due to arrogance or, you know, misplaced faith, the power dynamic between father and son. It's just,
it was
everything was good.
It wasn't without its fault, but it was good storytelling, it was gripping, it was beautiful to look at. But the positive that I would like to end on is that I told you your dad wasn't dead. That's my positive.
Should have been dead.
Told you, it just fell. You don't kill someone that badass that easily. No way. As soon as he popped back up, I was like, ha ha.
I literally made a note when I saw him on my, so he's alive then. I was like, no comment, whatever. But look,
I must face Lauren now.
I'll end on this. Yeah, I must face Lauren, literally that. I'll end on this. Nerdrotic, critical drinker, the haters of Lord of the Rings. You're wrong. Asterisk, it's an entertainment medium, all things being subjective. I'm not more right than you, but I'm right. This has been a really fun show. I've been along for the ride. I'm buzzed for season 3, even though it's probably like 2 years away. Like you, I want to go back and watch Lord of the Rings. Happy boy. Season 2 has delivered for me. It's not House of the Dragon, but it's pretty damn good.
Oh, absolutely. And it feels, you know, it's the same sort of category, but it fills a different void. Absolutely.
That's it. So over to you guys. What did you think? Are you amongst the
Come and
majority?
shout at us.
Yeah, come and shout at us. Let's have some fun. Bring it on. Bring on the filthy. Do you know what? Let's leave it there. There's a subscribe button up here. Yeah. There is another video for you to watch down here. So go ahead and do all that, and we will see you guys next week. You'll find the two of us on Agatha. Bloody Agatha. We'll see you guys
Nico, can't
next
wait.
week. Bye for now, guys. Have a great one and roll on
Bye-bye.
season 3.